Well, greetings, fellow travelers. I'm Stewie Dark of Invisible Lid, welcoming you to my neck of the woods. Actually, more like a part of my living room here. Well, a few months ago, for the first time ever, I did one of those silly vloggy things. And I decided that I would do a follow up. I'm not going to be doing a bunch of these things. But I thought I would do a follow up to it because there's some things that I was unable to comment on or remember to share, whatever, in the first one. So I thought I would do a second one, and here we are. Welcome, whoever pops in and checks out the vlog here. I sure appreciate it. So, you know, look, I have a tiny, minuscule, microscopic, way down on the UHF channels, way down below channel 44, KBHK, San Francisco, way down there. And it even blows me away that I have like 216 people at this moment that have subscribed to my silly channel. This is just a thing I like to do on the side, a fun kind of hobby thing, and that's cool and blippity bloop and whatnot. But I appreciate people that drop by. I have a handful of regulars, and that is super cool. We hang out, we check out games. Really, I think besides this being kind of like a side hobby thing, I like to show off games that I like to play so that maybe I might have, maybe one person may say, whoa, I'm going to check that game out. And they purchase it in a small, minute way. We all help the developers create more of their good products in comparison to all the crap that's out there, which, you won't see me streaming that kind of creepy crap. Anyways, in this stream, I have some show and tell stuff. I have a couple of writing things I want to share with you guys and whatnot. Maybe some whatever, some I don't know, personal thingamajiggies or whatever. And in the first vlog that I did, which again was a couple of months ago, never did that before. I think they're kind of silly. Um, I talked about how I got into gaming, what my history is with gaming, when I worked in the gaming industry at Sega and Microprose and Skyboat and Tech Magic and Magnet and all these places or whatever, and miss it dreadfully. But I will say that the gaming industry is it's always been volatile. Volatile. A lot of times when they ship out the product, they ship out some of the people. Okay, and I've faced that in my own history. Um, and I'm gonna do this. It's kind of bright in my room right now, but because all of my early um, streams, I'd always have my shades on, and then I'd go take off the cover. It was kind of this weird, silly, goobery thing I'd do. So I thought, well, I'll start that way. Anyways, so this actual video marks, if you can believe this, from this tiny, minuscule, microscopic, way below the UHF, below channel 44 KBHK channels, my 1000th video on my tiny, minuscule, microscopic channel. And I thought that's why I'm doing this vlog. I thought I would just celebrate that in a small, nerdy, geeky way of doing another vlog, which probably this may be the last vlog. I don't know. What else could I talk about? Why talk about Miscaminy? See what I'm saying? Anyways, okay, so one of the things that I skipped over before I started at Sega was between working in the gaming industry and doing graphic novels and comics, and then before that was illustration, book covers, and all that kind of creepy crap. This is back when illustrators later there was Photoshop, okay, but when you got a gig from an art director, you do some roughs, some black and white drawing roughs. Then you do a color comp. And then they pick, oh, I like this one. Can you, oh, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then you'd go to the final. Nowadays, everything is, if there's even painters anymore, apparently they are. Apparently, the Academy of Art University still teaches people how to draw. Yeah. But yeah, I'm from the era of where you actually had to do the stuff. I'm not knocking people that use Photoshop and 3D modeling things and all this, mostly Photoshop or with Painter or whatever to create artwork. I get it. And most of the stuff, That's the way things are nowadays, okay, in general, I think. But anyways, whatever, I digress. Before working in the gaming industry, when I was before Sega, and between the comic and the graphic novel and all that scammy, um, after the Clive Barker book, uh, um, a game designer, we used to have game designers, not producers that design the games or engineers that design the game. No, we used to have game designers. And a very cool guy that became a good friend of mine later in life. He passed away about 3 or 4 years ago, sadly. Found me through my publisher with the Clive Barker stuff, and he was working on a Hellraiser game. This is one thing that I'm just going to touch on real quick that I did not bring up in my history thing on the other vlog. Blah, 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 blah. He was working on a Hellraiser game. Interestingly enough, there's a new Hellraiser game finally coming out, and it looks like Hellraiser. Okay, and so he found me, and I was hired by him as a contractor to work for Magnet, and we were working on. I basically did like over 200 or 300 storyboards, following his design. Everything in his design, I drew out in storyboards, and that was the contract. That was the gig. And so we were flown back to Washington D.C. to the developer, and it just, man, basically the end of the story is the game got killed, and the company went out of business eventually or whatever. And that producer guy, who I won't name, BJ. So all I know is we got flown back to Washington D.C. We had hotels and all these kind of things, they put us up, all this kind of stuff. And our first meeting with the producer, there's the stack of storyboards. Here's the design doc, the designer, me, the producer, and we're going to go through the design fully and along with the storyboards. But the producer says to the designer, no, I don't want to, just tell me the gist of your design. Tell me the gist of what happens, blah, 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 blah. That's a red flag, man. Because he didn't even look at my storyboards. I don't even think he ever looked at them. And then the artist and the team, this is back when Quake came out. Okay, so we're talking like 93 or somewhere in there, something like that. 94, 90, after Doom and Quake and blah. And anyways, the art group had made the opening FMV, which somebody working on a computer program opens the box, and Pinhead comes out of the monitor and sucks him into the virtual world. That's what the Hellraiser thing was. And it was all right. It was okay for the time. It was probably the best they could do. But when they took us next door to where the main artists were, and they showed us another FMV for the game, me and Doug both looked at each other and were like, what the fuck, dude? First of all, Clive Barker's Hellraiser, besides the color of blood, which is really like almost a black, it's a really deep red, right? It's not like goofy movies from the 50s and 60s where red was the color of my Rush pinball machine right here, the logo. I can't do it backwards. It's hard to do that. Over there. That red. No. Anyway, so the point is, here's Hellraiser, here's a Pinhead, and he's above hell, and there's all this red hot lava, all this red and red mist, and we're like, this isn't Hellraiser. This isn't Clive Barker's hell. His hell was slate blue and gray and black and foggy mist, and then deep dark red blood. Not that. Not this color. Yeah, I can't do it. And so we're warning flag, Anyways, yeah. So, and then when we went back, they were showing us some of the that they kind of started working on, like a few rooms. And here's how they depicted how it was like a normal Doomy kind of game, which was crap. And there were restrooms. What the dude? Oh my God. What? Really? You're going to use that trope? Why is there bathrooms in hell? It's not supposed. Oh. Anyways, I digress. So the point is that I worked as a storyboard artist for games, 3 different games, before I got the job at Sega and then Microprose and blah, blah, blah. And then the career ended with all this layoff and all this creepy crap and whatever. Blah. I went into all that stuff in the first vlog. Yeah, so I did those storyboards, and then from Hellraiser, I'm skipping something in there. From Hellraiser, through Doug, we became partners in the industry, still under contract. He was working on design and early concept stuff for a Steven Seagal game. So I did storyboards, like a dozen or so storyboards for that. But the next one after that was cool. We were working on uh, ironclads, okay, the Civil War mechanisms. I gotta make sure I am actually live here, or am I talking to myself? No, we're good. Uh, Ironclads. So this was a producer that never worked on games, and it was his first game. The end of the story is he embezzled all the money, and then that project got killed. This man, there's so many horror stories in the gaming industry that just us gamers, as a gamer, don't even realize, man, the behind the curtain. There's so much crap, dude. It's almost worse than Hollywood. Well, whatever. Yeah, okay, scamming. So Ironclads. So the producer came to my house to meet me and look at my work just to make sure it was good or whatever, even though I was subcontracted through the designer Doug, and it wasn't even his purview to say, "Well, I'm going to hire you." No, I'm along with Doug. We're a team here. So he came over and looked at my storyboards from Hellraiser and Steven Seagal and said, "Great, awesome." And so and it was in the city. And so me and Doug went in the city, went to have this big meeting. One cool thing, okay, so I did like 2 or 3 dozen storyboards for it, and it was really cool. It was a cool project, man. I really dug it. And of course, it got killed because the producer embezzled the money. But one thing that was cool for me was one of the so I was doing storyboards, but there was a concept artist on the project as well. And then they were going to hire artists to uh, do the actual art, the finished art, if it ever got produced or whatever. But the art concept designer was none other than Ron Cobb, man. Look up Ron Cobb, okay? You ever see the movie Conan the Barbarian with Schwarzenegger and James Earl Jones? Everything visually in that game, everything, maybe not so much costuming, but everything was designed by Ron Cobb. And here I am, whatever the guy's name, the producer Mike is like, Stuart, this is Ron Cobb. I'm like, how many, not really. I was like, oh, it's very nice to meet you, Mr. Cobb. Inside, I'm like, holy shit, fanboy, can you sign this? Can you do this? Conan's my favorite movie. All that creepy crap. But no, I was totally cool and relaxed and like, oh my God, inside it's fucking Ron Cobb. Oh my God. On a wall over there, if I think of maybe taking it down, which you could see these easily on the internet as a repo of the sword. Not the father sword, but the one that Conan finds in the crypt with the skeleton king dude or whatever. Anyways, Ron Cobb. So yeah. So okay, basically that's the filler for the first vlog of how I got into the industry. Blah, 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 blah. I was going to do this last night on Friday the 13th, but it just didn't work out. So now I'm doing it on Valentine's Day. Oh, how lovely. I love you. I love you too. No. Oh, sorry. Oh, okay, look. When people say, what's the meaning of life? What's the meaning of life? It's very simple. Suffrage. That's the meaning of life, in my humble opinion. Now, I'll just briefly. Relationships? All right. After a failed marriage and all these relationships over the years and all this creepy crap, the thing that I came to find is it's not a secret, but this is my opinion on how to have a successful relationship from like the beginning. Later on, it's still going to get fucked up, regardless or whatever. I don't know. People are people, man. We all have stuff, and everybody does. You just have to find somebody that their stuff doesn't bug you as much as other people's stuff. And you go through all these people with stuff that you can't stand until maybe you find somebody. And the whole thing with like, oh, she's the one, he's the one, it's the one, whatever. The one, there's no such thing as the one. Okay? There's no such thing as the one. There are ones. Yeah, there are ones. But there's so much space between where they are that when somebody finds a one, they think of it as the one. Okay, whatever. And I go by the old George Carlin's adage on people, on humans in general, where he says, men are stupid, women are crazy. I've said that probably to about 60 or so women in my life. And I think one or two got slightly perturbed, whereas the rest of them said, you got that right. Anyways, here's my thing on relationships. Regardless if you're straight or gay or trans or whatever you are, which doesn't matter. Love is love. People love who they want. They identify whatever. I don't care about any of that crap. Are you a cool person or are you a prick? Pricks can get out of here. Anyways, here's one of my things on from the beginning of a relationship, just based on my own experiences. Okay, here's the thing. Now, it can't be done, but if you could do this, then you'd find a one, most likely, or somebody really compatible. And I'm going to move on in just a second. And that is, in the first 30 days of dating this person, okay? No sex. No sex. Kissing, hugging, snuggling. No dry humping. No sex. And kissing, no tongue. Because that's a sexual organ. It's great. Okay, so no sex and no tongue for 30 days. Do it. I mean, don't do those things. Okay? And then you find out who the person really is. Because man, relationships, it's all the same. It's the love, the lust, the lust, the love. We all want to get laid, regardless of where you're, if you're an innie or an outie, or an outie with an innie, or an innie with an outie, or somebody that doesn't have anything. Do people not have biological? I don't know. I never really paid attention. What's under you? Oh, I don't see. Anyways, there you go. No sex, no tongue, 30 days. Then you find out who the person really is. And if you actually like the person, I'm doing this because it's Valentine's Day. Okay, whatever. Okay, enough of that cryptic crap. All right, where am I going here? All right, so I've got some show and tell stuff that I was going to do in this one, which is kind of cool. But I think what I'm going to do is I have some little bit of writing that I just want to read. Okay, a couple little short things. It's cool. Just relax. Just be cool, guy. Or chick. Or tween. Or whatever. You know. Also, I don't get into politics on these things. But all I could say is fucking A. Do I need to say anything else? No. Well, maybe fucking A, B, and C. Holy crap, dude. Fucking A. Okay, sorry. Verfasacoin. Okay, so I've selected a couple of things, and I need some water. And if you would indulge me, I'm going to read you a short thing that I have, a short story thing, and then an idea that I wrote back in '99 for an X-Files episode that's a crossover from the Twilight Zone, of which I'm certain that you can see from some of my room that I'm a huge Rush fan. I'm a huge Twilight Zone fan. I'm wearing an Outer Limits shirt. Frickin' A. I'm a nerd. What do you want from me? Okay, anyways. Okay, there's nobody in here. I'm talking to myself. All right, so I'm going to read this thing. Probably take about 5 minutes, maybe. Which one is it? It's this one. Okay. It's called The Chase Turns. All right. The sky was clear. Afternoon sunlight spread across an open meadow of wild grass and lavender. Within a wisp of a bright wind, cooling hidden shadows cast by willows in the surrounding areas. A multitude of dandelions swirled as if to sigh in the warmth of the meadow. Tall thistle weeds layer through the grass, lightly motioning to and fro, snagging into one another by gusts of opposing breaths of air. Beneath, a host of rodents and birds searching for sustenance in an assortment of insects. Above, in the armatures of the willows, various birds sang tunes that seemed to call out and meet the day. The landscape of quiet calm became abruptly interrupted by the focus of a chase. From out of the tall grass a wild hare scurried for its life, being pursued by a hungry fox. The hunt had begun. The poor hare, frightened, instinctively running for its life, crisscrossed over the terrain in spurts of desperation to return to the safety of his shelter. But the fox was a crafty predator. It effortlessly matched the pattern of the hare's attempts to lose it. The hare, in complete survival mode, slid down the side of a sudden cliff, followed by its pursuer. The fox, merely a few inches behind, slashes a claw forward and barely slices its greeting into the hare's hind leg. The slope levels out, and with the hare more afraid than injured, it's able to sprint into the forest with the fox still in close pursuit. Deep in the shadows, the chirping birds began to caw out in chaos, reacting to the chase, while a few squirrels instinctively duck into the trunk of a rotted log. One by one, several of the small animals of the forest followed suit by taking refuge in the trees and burrows, until suddenly the forest fell silent. The cawing of the birds, the rustling of fallen leaves, the buzzing of bees, for a moment, equally paused at the same time. However, it wasn't necessarily the chase that stopped motion. It was as if the animals sensed something else had just taken place, something far out of the ordinary. The hare stopped clean in its tracks, stretched upwards, and sniffed out at the air above it. It seemed to be reaching for an answer to a missing question. The fox slowed, stopped in its steps as well, and stood a few feet before its prey. With hearts pounding, the fox and the hare faced each other with a curious look on their faces, until the pace of breathing began to slow. A strange sensation had suddenly found its way into their beings. All at once, as if a radiance had somehow been awakened from within, the animals of the meadow seemed to somehow be different and beyond their previous selves. Slowly at first, and then with a swift progression, the creatures of the forest displayed an inner change and gazed out at their surroundings as if experiencing it for the first time. Several perched birds shook their heads in disbelief, staring at each other with question in their eyes. A few of them simply flew away in complete disorder. Also seen in disarray was a colony of ants that completely ungroup and head out from their hill in all directions. They seemed to be moving away from each other. Really? I'd have to edit that. At the base of a willow, a lone fawn caves in confused. It begins weeping out for her mother, tears streaming down her face. Up above, a raccoon resting on a high branch curiously reaches out towards a fluttering butterfly, a brilliant western swallowtail. It flies into its paw, and deep within an overwhelming wonder, the raccoon studies it, delicately petting the colorful buttery thing. I gotta read here. Come on. It gives off a barely audible purr at the raccoon's touch. Undeniably, all life that had suddenly paused in the forest and meadow began to spring forth within a new illumination. The hare continued to stare out at the fox, who curiously enough sat down and began to hold its front paws in front of itself, first the left, then the right, and then up to its own face, staring at them in a questioning way. The hare looked at the fox with the same questioning look on its face. Slowly, it approached the fox until it was a foot away. The fox looked up at the hare the way a domesticated dog innocently tilts its head back and forth when confused, giving an appearance seeming to search for reason. Yet the fox had something else in its sense, as did the hare. It was as if a bell had suddenly rung out and escalated their makeup into one of clarity and complete consciousness. The hare began to realize, forming thoughts from within its once primitive brain, as did the fox. They, like the other creatures here, had somehow just become aware of their own existence, of mortality, and for the first time, of their own ego. They had somehow become sentient, reasoning creatures. The fox could sense not only the fear in the hare, but that it was trying to communicate back to it somehow, telepathically. Basic thoughts flowed from the essence of the hare and into the newly awakened mind of the fox. It thought out to the fox, forming thought, strange sensation, feeling confusion, new knowing, awakened, who, what, why. It was indeed the creature's first cognitive thoughts, a full awakening in its being. The hare sensed the fox's awareness of its extrasensory communication and continued, "No kill! Please! Why must kill? Live want I. Need live, need. Please, no kill I. Family need I. Please, now, single understand. Alive another way. The fox countered its own new awareness and ability of thought and attempted to answer its thoughts back to the hare, fragmented at first and then more coherent. Why, being, not no being, need grasp, understand. What I, what you, what happened, have no answer, no way to know. Now stop kill, try understanding. What happened here? Hunt you, kill, feed young, must kill I, must, still, feel, no, you young ones too. I kill, you die, you young ones die. But how possible understand? To now become think more than before. Understand? Yes, understand I, thought the hare to the fox. Only now understand. We not know before. Thoughts only forming now. Why not before? What make I and you know now? Please wait, no kill I, please. Want to understand what has happened. Clarity. Where before was only survival, we have now thought and reason. We can reason. We can think. We are more like them. The fox stood before the hare, listening to its thoughts, trying to put in perspective this newly gained awareness. I am me, it thought to itself. And the more it continued in thought, this sudden skill at communication became clearer and more precise, as did the hare's. Amazed, the fox felt a strengthened sense of pride and ego. It balanced to stand on its hind legs and thought, ha ha, funny, ha ha ha, until finally rolling over onto itself, the fox fell to the ground, wide-eyed in amusement. It rolled on its back and thought to the hare, watch out, I may still kill you. Ha ha ha, who's to say I won't? The hare felt a deep fear within itself, one that went way beyond what its past instinct had known. A chill curled down its spine. It was overwhelmed amid a river of emotions until finally tears began to build in its eyes. The hare thought to itself, if I don't figure a way out of this situation, the fox will surely kill me. It pondered on timing and the precise moment from which to make its escape, all the while not giving any outward appearance of these thoughts. The fox was also thinking to itself of deciding to continue with its attack, of sitting up, pouncing on the hare, pinning it down, and without hesitation slashing and striking its claws into its body, striking its fangs into its neck, and spilling the hare's life. This sudden feeling of violence overcame the fox, and for the first time it felt pleasure. Where before it killed simply for survival, it realized it could now kill for sport. Deep in thought, the fox imagined arriving at its burrow after each hunt and presenting its prey as more than just mere sustenance for its pack. It continued to think to itself, and a glow of intrigue set in its eyes. Noticing the fox's state of inner concentration, the hare thought for a moment, and in trying to take an advantage that this may be its only chance, it intuitively made an attempt at dashing away from the scene. But it was too late. For the very second it sensed the gap from which to escape, the fox sprang at it and pinned it down. The hare looked up and thought out to the fox, are you toying with me? We are equals now, but if you're going to kill me, I'd rather you just do it. Just now, just know that this isn't the only answer. The fox seemed to be enjoying this new feeling of pleasure. And playing with the hare, it thought out to it, if I don't kill you, something else probably will. Perhaps, thought the hare to the fox, but then again, why can't we exist together peacefully? This new understanding we have somehow gained. Maybe this is a gift we were given to better ourselves. If you kill me, aren't you acting as if you were still only a primitive, an animal? Well, you do have a point there. Perhaps I should just let you go. I could hunt for something else and view this encounter of ours as my first attempt at meekness. Yes, exactly. Please just let me go, the hare pleaded. The fox looked down at the hare with a sense of friendship in its eyes and lifted away, letting the hare up and motioning it to freedom. The hare felt relief, rose from the fox, and began to turn away, yet with a slight air of caution in its step. Suddenly, the fox sprang out at the hare, tore at its throat with its fangs, and killed it instantly. It scooped the hare up in its jaws and headed back out of the forest and across the meadow towards the warmth of its burrow. And as it moved along, the fox slyly thought to itself, "You were right. We are more like them now." All right, the chase turns. That was written, yeah, quite a while ago. All right, let me get a little bit of water. We got one more for you, and then I'm going to show you a bunch of props and stuff from my collection, and then we'll call it. I hope you enjoyed that wee little story about the human condition. All right. So the second thing, I had three, but the other one's way too freaking long. So the second one I have is this is my story idea for an X-Files episode paying homage to the Twilight Zone. It's called "Is This a Good Life?" So this is referring to the episode "It's a Good Life," starring Cloris Leachman. I forgot the father's name right now, and Bill Mooney, who went on to become William Robinson and Lost in Space, and a multitude of other things besides being a very accomplished artist, musician, well, artist, exactly. And the Twilight Zone, "It's a Good Life." You know, Anthony Fremont, who had the power to, wish people into the cornfield and turn people on fire and all that crippy crap. Anyway, crippy crap. Is this a good life? All right. Okay, so starring Bill Mooney as Anthony Fremont, Seth Mooney as Billy Fremont, who is Bill Mooney's son. He also has a daughter. Also in 2001, there was the second revival of Twilight Zone, and there was Twilight Zone, and there was a revival to "It's a Good Life." This came out years after my idea, okay? And in that story, Liliana Mooney plays uh, the daughter of Bill Mooney's character, Anthony Fremont, and she has the power. And it was a decent episode, but that revival series was terrible, including the later one. Oh my God. The first revival of Twilight Zone was actually pretty good in some sense. It had about 10 or so episodes that felt like Twilight Zone, and a couple that were just absolutely incredible, including "To See the Invisible Man." That episode is a Twilight Zone. Look it up. All right. Starring Bill Mooney as Anthony Fremont, Seth Mooney as Billy Fremont, Cloris Leachman as grandmother Fremont, Gillian Anderson as Scully, and David Duchovny as Mulder, and a guest appearance by Martin Milner as Mr. Fremont. Okay, the history. Anthony continued to roll over Peaksville for years, a town contained in his own reality. But when he reached the age of 30, he noticed that other people in town were making new families, but not him. He decided to try and start his own family, but none of the town's women would truly want to be with him. So he made a wife, a quiet woman, knowing not to act as a real wife should or could, and together they had a child, Billy. Billy showed little power when he was an infant, but as he aged, he started getting more mind power abilities, the ability for simple things like moving toys around. As Billy grew a bit older, he was able to create small creatures and began to read the thoughts of the townspeople until one day, the present, when he was 10 years old, his powers had become so strong that he began to parallel the power of his father, Anthony. Anthony, now a 45-year-old adult, has come to understand that the adults of his childhood were right, that he shouldn't have wished things and people away, including his own father. This didn't happen in the episode by the original "It's a Good Life," by the way. It's my idea. Wait, I lost it. Okay. Having wished things out of that, including his own father, who was wished into a fiery cornfield, the one day he finally stood up to Anthony. The only original Fremont family member to survive was Anthony's mother, who was now a very old woman and grandmother to young Billy. Anthony realizes that Billy could possibly overthrow his father's ability to contain the town in its own reality, opening his powers upon the unsuspecting world, and Leslie doing who knows what. Present day. In the present, Billy begins to control the town and has stopped respecting his father's wishes. Anthony realizes that Billy is stronger than him. He tries to have a father-son talk with Billy, but it doesn't work. Billy warns him not to interfere. Billy begins to bring his power to outer areas of Peaksville, looking for new people to control. All right, here's the start of the episode. Mulder and Scully are driving in the backwoods of Ohio. Peaksville is in Ohio, Anthony Fremont's town. Okay, looking for some location where they are to meet a man who supposedly has captured a Bigfoot. They are totally lost, and Mulder refuses to head back to the nearest town, some 80 miles back. They try to use their cell phones, but there's no signal. He turns off into yet another dirt road, where they then happen to come across the hidden unmarked town of Peaksville. Once entering town, people look at Mulder and Scully with surprise and go about their business, ignoring Scully and Mulder's questions as they drive through town. Just then, they see Billy standing at the street corner staring at them. Mulder pulls over to ask the kid for directions. Anthony appears and joins the conversation. Scully thinks the kid is cute. Since it's getting dark, Billy suggests to his dad, again, this is just a story treatment, to his dad that they stay the night with them and head out for their destination in the morning. They agree and end up at the Fremont's house. They meet Billy's mother, who doesn't speak very much, and Grandma Fremont. Before they decide to crash for the night, Billy's affections for Scully shows when he gives her a gift, a shiny new bracelet, exactly like the one her grandmother gave her when she was a kid. The bracelet was lost long ago. Scully finds this a weird coincidence. A bit of a friendship surfaces between the two, basically because of Billy's suggestive powers, plus she kind of feels for the kid. Billy reads their thoughts and memories and decides he wants to keep them in town. That night, Mulder wakes up suddenly to a bright light outside, scurrying aliens and a flash of his sister appearing on the street. He rushes outside, but she and the aliens are gone. Scully wakes up to get a drink of water and notices Grandmother Fremont is in the hall, suddenly appearing as Scully's long-dead grandmother, then back to Grandmother Fremont again. Mulder and Scully both began to suspect that something is just a little off in this little backwoods town. In the morning, Anthony confides in Scully and Mulder and tells them the whole history of the Fremont family in the hidden town of Peaksville. He mentioned that his son's powers are getting stronger than his, and then he fears that Billy's thirst for power may open up the town to the outside world. Billy suddenly enters the room and warns his father not to make up such things. An argument begins. Anthony demands that Billy understand that the killing and creating needs to stop, and that their power should be used only for good. Billy becomes very angry with his father, and the both of them disappear from the room and appear outside in a nearby cornfield. Scully and Mulder rush outside and see the cornfield begin to flame up in an enormous fire. Billy and Anthony stand before the cornfield. Billy just stands there, pointing to his father, giving him the evil eye. Anthony pleads with Billy to try and understand what is happening here, but his words go unheard. Just as Billy is about to wish his father into the cornfield, burning him up, Anthony puts the visions of when he wished his own father into the cornfield into Billy's head. Stronger and stronger, the images of Grandpa Fremont in agony fill Billy's head until, in a final burst of flame, the cornfield vanishes and Billy breaks down in tears, crying into the hugging arms of his father. He now understands what it took years for Anthony to realize, that ultimate power corrupts. The love of father and son has won. The mother and grandmother appear on the porch with smiles on their once sullen faces. Once Billy realizes that their special town needs to remain a secret, he wishes Mulder and Scully back to before they entered town. The family enters the house, and the scene changes to, again, Scully and Mulder are pulled over on the side of some dirt road where they were at the beginning of the show, without any knowledge of Peaksville, without any memory of what happened, but with a strange feeling of lost time. Mulder and Scully look down to check their watches. The time is correct. Bam! The twist. While Scully still looks down at her watch, she looks over at her other wrist and notices the once lost shiny bracelet that her grandmother gave her when she was a child wrapped around her wrist. With a look of chilling wonderment, Scully jokes to Mulder, saying, "Doo doo 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 doo." The camera rises straight above the car and fades into a starfield. The Twilight Zone theme plays and fades. The end. Oh man, I haven't read that. That's pretty cool, actually. All right. Okay. That's done. That's done. We are good. We are good. We are good. Okay. All right. Well, that was fun. I hope you guys enjoyed those little mini stories. I've wanted to share those for quite a while, and I'm glad that I did. I think it was kind of cool. I hope you enjoyed them. Last up, I'm going to share how dark it is it in here? Can I show something? Oh, you can see it. Okay. So I'm going to share some personal items of mine that are in my collection of props and items and things of this nature. And I hope you enjoy kind of viewing some of this stuff. Um, so I don't know. Let's get on it. All right. So what should I start with? I've just picked out like maybe a dozen things here. This can take a few minutes. No big deal. Um, some of them are insane. It's just insane. I don't know what it is. I've gotten in my life, I've gotten connected with some people and just incredible stories and just I can't even see I'm speechless on it. I can't even really, put into words what some of this stuff has meant. It's nuts, man. Okay, so this first item came from the is it the Sun? Right. It's the son of a major prop master for, I believe, I believe MGM. I think MGM Studios. I can't remember. It's been years since I've got this. But along with these items that I got from this son of a prop master, uh, I also got letter of authenticity, but also a color copy of his father's um, MGM identification card. Okay, which like that's such proof. Anyways, if you've never seen the movie Soylent Green, starring Charlton Heston and oh, dude, Charlton Heston and oh my God, how could you forget his? Oh my God. Anyways, if you've never seen Soylent Green, obviously I cannot talk about the story much and whatnot, but in the movie, it's in the future and food is scarce. And so a lot of food is um, of soy. And so there's Soylent Orange Day, there's Soylent Green Day, and people are starving and this stuff is given out and blah, blah, blah. But there's mobs of people that try to scrape their stuff, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, I have two biscuits of Soylent Green. Okay? They're thin wood pieces. Okay? They're thin wood pieces. I have it in a piece of plastic. There's two of them here. And so this is from the movie Soylent Green. Okay? And after the movie, I mean, they made tens of 10,000 or whatever of these things, including orange. Okay? There's a scene where you just see them throwing this stuff out and the conveyor belts of all the Soylent Green, all this. They made tons of these things. They're pieces of wood, okay, and they're all every edge is beveled, okay. And after the movie, the prop master like took garbage bags home and used the stuff as kindling, okay. And so some of it was left over, and the son, I think it's the son. I don't think it's the grandson. I think it's the son. Might be the grandson. No, I think it's the son. Pretty sure it must be the son. There was still stuff left over, and then eventually came into my grasp. Oh, this is an autograph from Toshiro Mifune of the Seven Samurai and tons of other films. Holy crap, holy crap. Now, it's hard to see, but, and I have the lights down, but he signed it in English down here. And then this stuff up here, I really don't, I mean, but this is legit. This is absolutely legit. Very cool. And I have a collection of autographs, and that's a lot of fun. I'm a huge fan of Nightmare Before Christmas, and I have a couple items. This is, oh, you can see this. It's pretty small. I'm going to show it up here. This is an eye from the mayor of Halloween Town. It's a sad eye. So he's got his eyes kind of, his lids closed. On the back of it, and this is made of resin and painted in, I believe, acrylic paints. On the back of it is a small magnet. So on the puppet, they would remove the eyes and the mouth and stop motion, right? To put the new version in, matching what the emotion is. So yeah, I have one of Mare's eyes, sad eye version. I also have when Oogie Boogie, come on, everybody's seen the movie. When Oogie Boogie dies, all of his bugs, he comes apart and all of his bugs fall to the ground. And here is a bug from Oogie Boogie. Very cool. Okay. Staying with the stop motion stuff, I don't know if you've ever seen James and the Giant Peach, but one of the characters is Miss Spider. And here is one of Miss Spider's faces. Very cool. Now, it doesn't have the eyes because, again, like the magnet thing, they would put the eyes in from the back or whatever. They take the face off, put the appropriate eyes in, do that frame or 2 frames, take the face off, put the new eyes in, whatever. Da, da, da. So Miss Spider. And then this one is what it's Panic number 2. 9 of 15. So just for Miss Spider being in panic mode, there are 15, or wait, no, I think that means that there's 15 heads of her, 15 of these. And this one is, with this, the mouth is not changeable. Okay, so this is number 9 of 15 of her. But this one in particular is number 2 of Panic. So Miss Spider, James and the Giant Peach. Very cool. Same thing, made of resin, probably acrylic paint. Okay. All right. These are latex ears. Okay. I have some tissue behind it to keep it from touching itself so it doesn't melt together. These things are 57 years old, somewhere in 1971. These ears came from the mold, from the pattern mold, of the Night Gallery episode from 1971, Pickman's Model, which is based on a story from, wow, my brain's mush today. Dude, Lovecraft, sorry. So these are from the mold. Now, these particular ears were not used in the Night Gallery. These were poured for an episode of Buck Rogers in the 25th Century on TV, in the episode The Satyr, or Satyr, however you pronounce it. Anyways, yeah, latex gloves, 57 whatever years old. The latex is perfectly fine. Latex does not stay together, man. Okay? For some reason, these things are freaking awesome. They have not fallen apart or anything. All right, so, okay. Props from, it's weird. The prop world is weird, man, because there could be a new show now and the props become available for sale at an auction at Heritage or whatever, and they'll go for tons of money. Okay, I get it, but trying to get props from old shows like the Munsters or whatever, you have to realize that a lot of stuff was just thrown out, or things were repurposed or reused. So you may see something, there's a creature that's in the Outer Limits that was in Bewitched, and parts that were in Star Trek, and things of this nature. So things were repurposed, reused in all these different shows, and at some point, things would be falling apart. They just throw them away. Whatever, just throw them away. Okay? So a lot of props from early television shows are not easy to come by, to say the least. However, I have a number of what you would call a set decoration prop. It's not a prop that's made for the show. It's a prop that was in the MGM backlog of the prop department. And I have a handful of these items that came from the original Twilight Zone. And they are accompanied by handwritten notes from one of the set designers, Henry Grace. And this prop I'm going to show you is a CSA Civil War bugle. And this is from the episode The Passers-By. Okay? It's weird to do stuff backwards. CSA. Okay. So, yeah, that's crazy, man. That's crazy, dude. Can you play this thing? The answer is no. Anyways, this is a prop from the Twilight Zone. Now, things like Talkie Tina and the Invaders and props that were made from the Twilight Zone, yeah, those don't exist, man. Those things were thrown out or deteriorated. The Invader puppets, there were two, I believe, that were made for the episode of the original Twilight Zone, The Invaders, starring Agnes Moorehead as the only character in the episode. Those things, let's see, how's the story go? So the story goes, I believe, I'm pretty sure that Rod Serling brought that puppet or puppets home for his girls to play with and then returned them. But eventually those things fell apart and they were just tossed. So a lot of stuff was tossed. I know that for this episode, The Passersby, that actor, it starred James Gregory and Joanne Linville. Joanne Linville went on to become the Romulan commander in Star Trek. Okay, awesome. But James Gregory, from the episode The Passersby that this bugle came from, was able to keep his guitar. He played this guitar. I don't know what happened to that guitar. It probably went to his son or a grandkid. And then, the grandkids, if they don't know what the shit is, well, you give it to Goodwill, whatever, but they have no idea. Matter of fact, how would you say somebody that's not a friend and more than an acquaintance? An acquaintship? An acquaintship. A friendship. I don't know. No, that didn't. Anyways, I became a friend of George Clayton Johnson, one of the original writers in the Twilight Zone. And he had tons of stuff in at his house in boxes. And at some point in our friendship, and we weren't close. He wasn't my friend. Every time I went to LA, I'd visit George. We'd hang out. We'd go get lunch. And he was just awesome, man. Dug George. But at some point, he said, "You know what, Stuart? Somewhere in one of these boxes, I have a small plate, a small plate, like a dinner plate, but a small plate that was behind the wall, behind Robert Redford in the episode he starred with Gladys Cooper, Nothing in the Dark." He said, I was there for the shooting of that episode, and it was incredible. It was awesome. And afterwards, the director came over and he said, "Hey, George, hey, why don't you have something from the show?" He gave him the plate. And he also got the blueprint somehow for the set design, okay, like a top view of the set design. And he had these things in a box. And at some point in our friendship, being who I am and projects I've worked on, which I don't really get into on this stuff, with that genre or that whatever. Anyways, George said, "You know what, Stuart?" And he told me what he had. And he says, "I want you to have those things. Someday I'll have to go through these boxes and you can have that. You can have this." And it's just like, oh my God, dude. Because that's a screen identifier. It's really hard to identify this bugle. But I did. But the other stuff that I have, it's just really hard to identify set decoration items. And so George, he didn't say, "I promise I'll give it to you." He just, "Stuart, I want you to have this stuff." Well, unfortunately, in 2015, George had passed away. And whatever happened to all that stuff? Who knows? Maybe that stuff was thrown out or given to the. So that's the kind of things that happen with these things, sometimes in family. All right, sticking with the Twilight Zone and talking about the invaders, the little invader puppets. Well, I could show you that. Give me a second. No, it's too much of a hassle to get that down from there. Yeah, okay. Anyways, so years ago, okay, from the episode The Invaders, okay, the little invader guys with the antenna on their head and their little oxygen thing, and you can't see what's in there. They're these little guys. They're like this big. They're totally terrorizing Agnes Moorehead, and I won't give away the twist ending. At some point, I don't know what year this was. I don't know, early 2000s or something like this. Disneyland California Adventures added the ride, the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. Right? I've been to that a couple of times. Very cool, awesome ride. And in the line, when you're inside the building, the queue, there's these different things you go through, and there's a library and all these things, and they have all these items that you would think that, oh, that looks like it, like a curio shop. And there were curio shop episodes in the Twilight Zone. something in the nothing in the bottle. What's that one again? The Man in the Bottle, starring uh, uh, Ruskin, James. Wow. Anyways, whatever. I digress. Curio shop, all these different things, and blah blah blah. And there's a library, all these books and stuff. And you watch this TV thing with some footage that's Rod, but they did Mark Silverstein or whatever did the voice of for the ride and blah 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 about the elevator and all that stuff. But up on the shelf somewhere along the lines up there was an Invader. Now, it wasn't an Invader, obviously, from the Twilight Zone. And years later, okay, so the Imagineering team made an Invader. They made an Invader, and it was up on a shelf. I have it on video when I first went through that ride decades ago. Proof. Okay. So years later, Entertainment Earth came out with Twilight Zone figures, okay, and one of them was an Invader. And I noticed years later when I went to the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror that now that Invader that was up there was different. It was no longer the one that was from the Imagineering team. It was the Entertainment Earth one, which is over there. I just kind of don't have it. It's up in the thing. Yeah, it'd be too much. Yeah. They replaced it with that one. And it's like, really? Why did they do that? So a few years ago, I guess a handful of, I don't know, 6 years ago, whatever, and there's also a Twilight Zone Tower of Terror at Disney World, the two places, California Adventures at Disneyland and Disney World. So they both have that ride. The one at Disney World still exists, but a handful of years ago, they remodeled the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror to be the Guardians of the Galaxy. So they completely changed the library and the curio shop, and I haven't been back to the ride. I don't think no, I don't think so. So I have no idea. But all of that stuff was gutted, right? So what happened to that stuff? Well, some of it was probably maybe put in an archive at Disney because maybe there were some items that la 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 la. But through a personal friendship connection with mine, which I won't go into details on it. I obtained the original Imagineering Invader from the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. It's incredible. And yeah, I don't want to go into details. However, I have it right here to share it with you. Now, I printed it comes on a base. It's got a base under it, a wooden base. And I printed a little label that I very carefully, with slight tack, those little rubber things on it to not alter it in any way, put a label on it. Anyways, here it is. There you go. There you go. Come on, man. They don't need to see me. Put this in the camera. There it is. There's the Invader. There he is. Now, look at the hands. It's kind of weird. Those are the weapons? Those are the weapons. Okay, whatever. Or it could be missing the weapons. But I haven't gone back on the video to see if they actually had things on there or not. But it looks like they just made there's the hand and it's holding this little dial or this little post. But it kind of looks like the post had something on it. However, if it did, those things they're not here. They were never a part of this. So the way I interpret it, and again, I haven't gone back on my video to look at this thing. But there it is, man. So, yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Right. All right, let me put this over here very safely. Okay, now on to Star Trek. Holy crap, a ding dong. Oh my God. I mean, the Twilight Zone stuff, that's insane. That's insane. Because that stuff just made. And you can go online and you can see a handful of people that have obtained stuff from the Twilight Zone. Some costumes, there's a couple costume items. There's from the old man in the cave, there's a set of those red lensed goggle things and a couple other things here and there. And only one costume that was actually made for the Twilight Zone. That's pretty cool. The little Venusian dudes from Mr. Dingle the Strong. I saw those at some point. I told the dude, if you ever want to sell one of those, let me know. So I'll keep you posted. Anyways, on to Star Trek. Just a couple of things left, and then we're good. Let's see. Should I go backwards? Let's go backwards. Yeah, we'll go backwards. All right. So on Deep Space Nine, they did like a revival episode of the Tribbles. It was called the Trials and Tribulations, and it starred the Klingon dude posing as a human from the original The Trouble with Tribbles. He reprised his role, and they have one of those Bajoran time things or whatever to go back in time to try to correct what's going to happen where that dude put a bomb in one of the tribbles in the upper cabinet where Kirk opens it and all the tribbles come out. There's one with a bomb. So the team has to go back in time. It's so cool because they remade some of the sets. They put themselves into the film, the original episode from the original series, Trouble with Tribbles. It's really killer. Anyways, again, they made hundreds of tribbles. Now, I have a tribble from the Deep Space Nine episode, Trials and Tribulations. It came from the photographer that did the story for Entertainment Weekly of that specific episode. And he was given a handful of tribbles because, again, they had hundreds of these things. Here, do you want some tribbles? Here, take some of this stuff. Get it out of here. Now, obviously, you hear things about how studios, like the actors on Next Gen, they couldn't take their uniforms. Well, I'll buy it. No, it's property of blah. But, there are situations. Come on, man. What are you going to do with like 1,000 tribbles? Anyway, so I have, and it is legit. I have, see, what's the best angle on this thing? Probably here. So this is a tribble from Deep Space Nine. I have it in a plastic box in one of my glass cases. Very cool. Very cool. Light gray with little wispy, little black hairs and white hairs. Very cool. Deep Space Nine tribble. Very cool. All right. We're almost done. But I'm going backwards. I don't have anything from Enterprise. Why would I have anything from any of the new shows? Most of that stuff sucks. And I'm not even getting into Starfleet Academy. Holy crap, I'm not watching that piece of shit. But I'm going backwards. I don't have anything from Voyager. However, that's Deep Space Nine. Now, and this stuff, okay, so the rest of these last couple of items here, and I have other things. I have a whole bunch of buttons that came from the bridge of the Enterprise and engineering and da-da-da, but I'm not going to take all that stuff out. But this came from the Greg Jean collection. Greg Jean was a master prop master from tons of films and one of the main guys from Next Generation. And he became friends with prop guys from the original series who had a bunch of props from the original series, and they traded stuff because the original series guys dug his work. Man, your stuff is so much better than ours. And so they traded stuff, and Greg ended up with tons of stuff. Eventually, he sadly passed away, and that stuff through the family went into auction on Heritage, and I ended up with some items. This is an actual next-gen comm badge. Now, it's not a repo. It's not something you just get. This is a legit comm badge. On the back of the comm badge, is a piece of Velcro. Now, the actors didn't have their comm badge. Their uniform, their wardrobe, was Velcroed. So their wardrobes had Velcro right here. And the wardrobe people would say, okay, here's Picard's thing. Okay, there's a box of these. Put one on. Okay, and there's one for Picard. There's one for Crusher. Da, da, da. Anyway, so yeah, a legit next-gen comm badge. Very cool. And again, Velcro on the back, if you ever wondered. Awesome. All right, now comes the stuff. Let's see, how do I? Okay, I do have to do one thing. So, in the episode, and okay, this is the original series now. This is from the original series. Oh, don't lose the picture. It's reloading. Okay, give me a second. Yeah, here we go. So, oops. No. Come on. Okay. I'm starting to lose this. What happened to the picture? Okay, hold on a second. I have to go back. Okay, come on. No, I don't want to see that. I want to see the picture I had. Why did the picture go away? Oh my God. Okay, hold on. This can take me a moment. I lost the picture I wanted to show. So go here and go there. Give me a moment. Technical difficulties. Okay, so, oh, I have a couple things here. Okay, so first season, there's an episode called A Taste of Armageddon, the planet that fights their wars for 500 years by computer. And when areas are to be killed from the computer bomb, the fake bombs that really aren't even destroying their world, people go into suicide machines. All right. Well, in that episode, there are these disruptor pistols. And here's just, how can I show you this? Can I show you this without, yeah, it's not really, it's too much of a glare. I can't really show that. I can go like this. Here's Kirk with the main dude. Yeah, it doesn't really show. Anyways, from the episode, yeah, this probably isn't going to work then. In the episode, these aliens have their own disruptor pistols. Can I show one? Is it going to even show it? Yeah, you can't really see it. Damn. Bummer. It's because it's lit. But I'll try not to touch the screen. This at the end. Okay. After this episode, these were taken apart and the ends were repurposed. You can't really see it in this photo, and that kind of sucks. Okay, hold on. They were repurposed in other episodes, and the other episodes that those tips of the disruptors were used in an episode called "The Omega Glory" and God dang it, what is that? All Our Yesterdays. Hold on a second. Let me go back. I have an episode list. Yeah. Okay, that was in the first season, and the second season, this will be done in a moment. And this has been cool. This is cool sharing this stuff. I don't know. I just thought I'd share some stuff because it's kind of neato. They were repurposed in what I just said, the Omega Glory and Return to Tomorrow. Okay, and I can't really now because that's not going to show from my phone. It's probably not going to show here. Will it show here? Where's that other shot? Oh, here it is. So this is from not the Omega Glory, but the other one. Sorry. Let's see, can I show it? Oh, God. Wow. There's no way I can really show this. Here's a shot of Kirk and the actress, and on the table is one of the, I'm just going to show the prop, but I wanted to show like the screen identification. It's right, is it right there? It's right, yeah, it's really hard to see, but it's right here. Anyways, this is one of the tips. There were 5 disruptors that were made, and 3 of them were repurposed for Scotty's, that big turquoise colored engineering tool that was like that big. It was this big thing like this. It had dials and stuff. And at the end, it had these 3 prongs, these metal prongs with red inlay things on them, 3 of them. And here's one of them. This is the tip of the disruptor weapon. Man, it's hard to do this stuff backwards. Yeah. So it's got this red plastic in it and then metal. See underneath where it was screwed into the weapon. But this thing was used several times in other episodes. And to me, that's insane. When you have screen identification, that is the most important thing when it comes to props. And yeah, so this is one, and on the disruptor, it's like this, right? So the rest of the gun is over here. Right? So yeah, look at that. Cool. And this is I believe it's aluminum. No, I think it's I don't know. I don't know. And for the piece of resistance, which is just absolute insanity, I have an original Tribble from the Trouble with Tribbles. That to me is absolutely crazy. It's historical. It's just absolutely nuts. So here's my Tribble. Now, this thing's like 60 years old, man. And these are the common ones, the common brown, light tan ones. There were white ones that are smaller, and bigger, I think, that are very rare. And there were dark brown ones, and I don't think there were black ones. There were black ones in the Deep Space Nine episode, but this is my Tribble from The Trouble with Tribbles from the original Star Trek. And that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. And I think I'm going to wrap it up here in a second. I think this was fun. It was kind of neato to do another vlog. This is probably, I didn't call it my final vlog, but it probably is because what am I going to, why? Whatever. People maybe do vlogs for like 10 minutes or something, and and they have millions of subscribers and people that are interested, and then they have tons of people that are leaving comments in there and all that stuff. And you can see nobody's been in here on this one, which is perfectly fine. Guys, people can watch it later on. I hope you get something out of it, whatever. But I just wanted to do another one to kind of sum up some of the stuff that I hadn't talked about. And then I had this idea to do a cool show and tell. So that was fun. What else can I say? I appreciate the people that have subscribed to my tiny, minuscule, microscopic, way down on the UHF below channel 44 KBHK San Francisco channel. Oxygen. I sure appreciate it, man. I just think it's super cool. Those people have tens of thousands of millions of people, subscribers, and all that stuff. I can't even imagine that. I'm blown away that at this moment, 216 people have subscribed to my minuscule channel and tune in to watch me, play video games. I just think that's pretty neato. Okay. And I go between like cool, like doing cool stuff. I think maybe that's some people probably dig seeing me scream like a wee little girl. All right. Well, that's about it. Thank you so much for popping in and checking out the stream here, my second vlog, possibly the final one. I sure appreciate you guys, and I sure appreciate you hanging out on my gaming streams. It's very cool, and I hope you get something out of these things. That's very cool as well. And listen, take care of yourselves. Be good. And what else can I say? I'm Stewie Dark of the Visible Lid. And remember to take care of yourselves, because life can be a hard wrench of reality. All right, peace out. We'll see you on the next one. Let's see how I can exit out of this vloggy thing. All right, take care, man. See ya.